Most entrepreneurs don't hire an executive assistant for one simple reason. They think it will create work.
More training, more managing, more explaining.
But what if in reality an EA didn't add work? What if they actually gave you 10 to 20 hours of your week back?
Today we're demystifying the entire process.
And apparently, I'm the guinea pig.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, today's episode is a little different because instead of just talking about delegation, we're actually putting me through the process of getting an executive assistant live, which feels invasive.
And to guide us through it, we brought in someone who understands exactly how chaotic a founder's life can become.
He's the founder of Fat Straws Bubble Tea. Fat Straws. Man, I went Kentucky there. Fat Straws Bubble Tea, a brand he's been building for more than 2 decades. Former EO Dallas president, community builder, entrepreneur.
And today he's here representing SuperPowersHQ, the company helping founders break free from the trap of doing everything themselves. They connect entrepreneurs with world-class executive assistants who don't just take tasks off your plate, they help remove the founder as the bottleneck.
And today, Terry is going to vet me, which means we're about to find out live on this podcast whether I'm even qualified to have an executive assistant.
So if you've ever wondered, when should you hire an EA? What should they actually do? Are you even in denial about being the bottleneck in your own business?
Then buckle up, because this episode might legitimately change how you run your life.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The delegation king, the founder freedom fighter, the man about to audit my calendar, my inbox, and probably my childhood, Terry Pham.
Woo!
Yeah, baby.
What an intro. Come on.
welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent.
A pleasure to be here.
But now, anybody who's listening to this podcast knows we talk about superpowers a lot. They
All the
know
time.
they know Alice. We say goodbye to her after every episode. She
right.
has changed her life. We've had Alice on the podcast
Sure.
way back when. Why don't you give us a little background for anybody who's not, if this is their first episode?
First episode. Okay, so 3 years ago, I was in the middle of a tremendous amount of suck.
Yeah.
I mean, my life was fairly chaotic. I always had 20 more things hanging in the back of my mind, just eating up bandwidth, causing my stress level to be just a little bit elevated. I never could get through. Well, I got things done. It was just, there was so much more. And so I tried to, a part-time virtual assistant. It was just okay. And then I decided, man, if we're going to do this thing, let's do this thing. And I'd met Stephen Nooner through Strategic Coach. And so talked to Ryan, his co-founder with SuperPowers, and decided, I was like, all right, these folks seem like they've got something figured out here. And so when I brought Alice on, essentially what she's done in a nutshell is she's taken all those things that used to just occupy space in my mind, and she's cleared the deck for me. So when I show up now, I'm more clear-headed. I know there's somebody handling all the stuff, and I can be completely present and in the moment. So not only do we get more stuff done, more efficient, but I get, not necessarily me, but like our company gets more done in less time, and I'm always showing up a better version of myself, really because of Alice managing me.
Right.
And the process of getting to the point where I could allow somebody that is in another country to manage me was, thinking about it ahead of time, there was some real brain damage there. Like, how on earth is this going to work? But it has.
Yeah.
It has. And we've talked about it a lot. We've got previous episodes like you mentioned, but I'm looking forward to hearing Terry. Terry, I understand, man, you're in the trenches. You're talking with the entrepreneurs all the time and how this will work. So we'd love to unpack with you, Well,
I'd love, you just give us a few-minute origin story about what led you to where you are now with SuperPowers and why anybody should listen to you today.
Yeah, so again, appreciate the incredible intro. I don't think I've ever had an intro like that, so very flattering. So I started my business a couple of decades ago. classic entrepreneur figuring it out, flying the plane and building at the same time, as we say. We've grown that company. We've got we actually have 5 locations, four brick and mortars, and 1 inside of AT&T headquarters. Been doing that for a couple decades. And the strangest thing happened. I was in a forum meeting. I'm in EO. I'm still in my EO forum, although I'm not part of EO, but I was in a forum meeting. And it was kind of the best way I can put it was kind of a God thing. There was a moment when I just heard this, like, hey, you should go pursue something else. And it wasn't, sell fat straws or get out of fat straws. It's just like, go see what else is out there. And I was kind of stuck with it. And I actually called Ryan afterwards, and he was driving behind me, and I said, what do you think about this? He said, well, I think you should make sure you're clear on your story as an entrepreneur. And he's like, and I think you should lean into that. And I think the action you need to take is actually go out and let people know. Anything around relationships, around coaching, mentorship, I think you'd be a great value add to any organization. So the next day, Steven calls me, and I share that story with him, and he's laughing. And I said, well, what's so funny? He said, I'm building this role within Superpowers, and I had you as this avatar for the person we're looking for.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And I thought, there's no way it would happen this fast. One of my best friends, he's like, I'm looking for I'm looking for someone like you, but now you're telling me I could actually get an opportunity to work with you. And so we got, had some long conversations, and it was a little squishy. We're trying to figure out kind of what the role was, and what it's eventually evolved into is recognizing that, we have these incredible EAs, we have these partnerships, but sometimes they run into friction. Oftentimes it's not because of the EA's capacity or capability. Oftentimes it's the way the entrepreneur thinks about the relationship. We talk about what we call 5 delegation roadblocks, and we kind of go through this. And so my role is really engaging with these partnerships, identifying where they're having friction. We look at their predictive index surveys to see this is how they complement each other. This may be where friction occurs. And how do we maybe use shared language to create more effective friction-free delegation? And how do we get the entrepreneur to sometimes let go more? How does the EA shift from, every entrepreneur wants their EA to be proactive, assertive. Sometimes what I do is I reframe that a little bit and say, you're actually your entrepreneur's protector and gatekeeper, right? You protect their energy, you protect their time, and you protect their headspace. And you control who has access to them and who does not. And reframing that sometimes allows them to level up in their partnership more quickly. And so my role is really, one, working and just nurturing those partnerships, helping them get unstuck, and also just creating more awareness for what we do at Superpowers. And so I've hosted some workshops like with EO Dallas on delegation roadblocks. I've been on some podcasts, and so that's kind of how I ended up. And I have just a love for having conversations with founders. I just get excited about it. It doesn't feel like work to me. It just feels like fun. And I love helping others get unstuck. I always say it's not anything that I have some magical advice I'm going to provide. More, it's like my job is to be like a mirror. Let me reflect and create some awareness for people. And then share some experience that I know that we've seen has worked in other partnerships. And so that's pretty much my role in a nutshell. It's, like I said, it's fun for me. I would say if you were to use coach parlance, I'm living into my unique ability, which is a lot of fun.
All right.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's talk about the 5 delegation roadblocks. Or, I mean, even before that, it sounds like the delegation roadblocks kind of happen after you get your executive assistant already, but I'm sure that those exist even before that process. But I'm really curious, what do you see from most people that come to you, or here it is. What's the most common misconception that you see when someone brings up an executive assistant or the roadblock to actually get one?
It's going to take too much time.
Right.
I have too many irons in the fire. I've got too much going on. I don't have time to sit with someone, get them up to speed, let them understand my email, who my clients are, what my work rhythms are. I have enough people to manage. I don't want to manage somebody else. That's the number one. I see the second one is, I don't feel comfortable having an EA. I don't know if I deserve that level of support. Maybe I'm not ready for where I am in my business. And I think a lot of that lives a little bit more in identity, which we talk about a lot. And so those are actually two of the roadblocks. It takes too much time, and I don't believe I deserve that level of support. But those are the two most common that I see.
And what's the reality of both of those?
If you have the right fit EA, I think we talk about a lot. It's a crock pot, not a microwave, right? It's a crawl, walk, run. But yes, it will take some time. It will take some investment, but it is an investment, not an expense. It will really compound the impact that you're able to make. And I think when people lean into it, they actually really see that this can happen, one, much faster than they think it's possible. And two, they're able to really achieve a lot of that freedom and growth that we talk about.
Well, even that's scary for me to hear, it's a crock pot. It's going to take some time. And the thing I think is missing here, and just that the flip side of that roadblock is, how much of that am I responsible for taking care of?
Great question. I think in a proper relationship, if you're properly supported with an EA, that person actually, their role is to lead and manage you, right? That's probably the biggest flip. I think when we think of, because I've had a VA before, just like you, Bo, and I was always either giving them too much to do, or I was sitting there wondering, do I have enough for them to do? And it was another person on my team to manage. I was just giving them, and what I was doing was just dumping tasks on them.
Yep.
I think in the right relationship, the EA will lead you. The EA will lead your daily sync meetings. The EA is going to tee up. This is what's on your agenda today. These are your top 3 priorities for today. These are some things that maybe I'm blocked on. Yes, you need to share some context, but they're leading in that relationship. And I think that's where you can really, again, it's shifting that perspective of being someone you manage versus someone who's leading you.
Yeah, I remember, and it's been 3 years. I've had Alice on our team for 3 years.
Wow.
And I remember when that process started, I had some of these same questions like, all right, I'm going to do it. I know I'm going to invest the time on the front end, time that I'd rather be doing something else, but I know I'm going to get a return on that. So let's just stink and do it. And I remember I was like, man, I really hope I don't have to figure this stuff out. I don't have to figure out what to give Alice, and I don't have to figure out these systems and processes and how to make all this work. They're giving me a capable person, but then I have to figure out how to best manage. I was really hoping that wasn't the case. And what I found, especially, I don't remember exactly what it was because it's been 3 years now, but they had this 90-day process, this crawl, walk, run kind of thing. And what it felt like from my perspective was Alice, especially at the beginning, she's learning me, she's learning our business, but she was pulling out of me all the things she needed to know to lead me, to manage me. And it didn't take any brain damage on my part. It was great.
Yeah.
I didn't know how it could work really well because I'd never seen it and I didn't have a concept for it, but it worked really well. They've got that part figured out.
Right. That's what's so interesting to me is when you bring somebody on, the whole thought is I got to teach them what to do. I got to know exactly what to tell them what to do, how to train them to do it. And this is what is amazing to me, that she was there and she knew the questions to ask to get the information that she needed, which sounds like it helped you clarify your mind path.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
For not with superpowers, but we had a property manager leave a number of months ago. And before that person left, and I didn't know this was coming, but I had Alice create standard operating procedures for our property management part of the business. And so we've got everything written down. Alice did it. And I reviewed it and, but Alice did it. But I still haven't hired a replacement for that person because it's not going to be like adding an EA with superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to, even with the I'm going to have to show them all this stuff, and it's like, and you know, and we're selling the properties. So like the main reason I haven't hired Terry, just for context, is, you know, we're selling these properties. We're going to redeploy our capital in another direction. So that job will go away in 2026. So I didn't feel like I had the freedom. I didn't feel right about bringing somebody on to a position that we already knew was going to go away.
Sure.
So my wife's kind of stepped in and helped and stuff. So and we're good. But like, man, even the idea of hiring somebody for that position and having to put that time in, but that was not the case.
Yeah.
With superpowers. It did take some time, but all of that time was a clarifying exercise for me at the same time. Like there was real benefit in it for me.
Terry, tell us about a moment that you have had since coming on to Superpowers. Tell us about a moment where you've worked to, I guess, put out a fire between, I don't know if that's the right term, but to help
defriction
to tear down those delegation roadblocks.
Yeah.
Tell us about a moment.
Yeah, I think, again, we go through those 5 delegation blocks. I think one of the ones that I see most common is it takes too much time. If I was to go back a little bit, and I love what you said, though, about the EA's pulling, Alice is pulling stuff from you, right? I think the first thing that has to happen is the entrepreneur actually has to let go a little bit.
Yep.
Let go of some control. There's a little bit of surrender that needs to happen. And when we see that not happening, that's where we see a lot of friction. And so oftentimes entrepreneurs want things done yesterday, they move fast. And so the thought process is, it takes too much time. It only takes me 5 minutes, I'll do this. And what I say is, well, let's turn that into a math problem. If it only takes you 5 minutes, but you did it 100 times in a year, that'd be 500 minutes. That's 8.5 hours. So you've lost a day because you didn't want to let go of something that it only takes you 5 minutes. So are we avoiding a 30 to 1 hour delegation conversation so you never have to own it again? Compound that times however many other 5-minute things that you're not wanting to let go of, and you're losing days per year. And so one of the things that helped us, I've seen in one of my earlier calls get unstuck, it was just reframing language. Oftentimes what I find is a big challenge is what is absolutely critical and what are some things that actually the EA can run with, right? What can they run with? And so we use this analogy called plastic balls versus glass balls. And because what happens is as your task list grows, most of the EAs are super detailed. They probably have some perfectionist tendencies. They want to operate with excellence. And so there's this tension around every task is a glass ball. So I say, well, what happens when you drop a plastic ball? They say nothing or it bounces. And what happens if you drop a glass ball? It shatters. So what I share with them is the entrepreneur's job is to delineate between plastic or glass balls. So maybe it's like, hey, Alice, I need you to create this SOP. Here's a high level outcome I'm looking for, but I want you to figure out the how, right? And so I want you, think of me as an editor. And editors don't always know what they want until they see it. So like, here's the outcome I'm looking for. I want you to get it about 75, 80%. Bring it to me as an editor. I can review it, maybe make a couple tweaks. I can close it that 20 to 25%, and then it will get done and it'll go out the door. But it de-risks the EA. Sometimes the EAs, they're stuck because they feel like I can't fail. This thing's going to break. You juxtapose that with something that's a glass ball. It could be client relationships. It could be financial. It could be legal, maybe strategic goals. Then the entrepreneur is going to share crystal clear context, maybe fill out an impact filter or something like that. If you're in coach, like, here's the success criteria. Here's the outcome I'm looking for. These are the milestone check-ins. And so then they're going to always like review things, check in as they go, and progressively get it to where it's done and make sure they both review it before it goes out the door. And so me just sharing that language with a partnership, it helped, one, create less friction for the EA to get more things done. And it also helped the entrepreneur delineate between the things that they could just say, I want you to figure out the how, versus the things that these are absolutely critical. We cannot mess these up. We need to make sure this is done well.
That seems so smart to use the language of handling and identifying balls. It seems like that would be. That's brilliant.
I knew something like that was coming as soon as he said
I walked
plastic
into
and
that one,
glass.
didn't
Like
I?
I just flat knew it. You couldn't have used a different shape, you know. But
Hey, balls bounce, I get it.
But look, what to Terry's point though, like we do much of what he's talking about. Like we have systems in place for, document creation in our business, and so, top producer Todd Humphreys will go out.
Top producer Todd Humphreys.
He'll need to create a proposal, and so Alice within a program called Notion has created these worksheets. He goes in there, fills out the worksheet. That information goes to Alice. Alice creates the proposal, fires it back at Todd, and the goal is 80% good as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with Alice is it's generally 95% good as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And and I've said this before, but she consistently exceeds our expectations and does it at a high rate of speed. Alice, in fact, Todd and I were talking yesterday, and he was lamenting at the fact that some of his clients have staff in their companies that aren't you. He was like, if everybody just had Alice, we could do this stuff so much more efficiently and better, and we'd have so much less headaches. So,
this is great. Now we've had Stephen and Ryan on, and we talked about how Superpowers came to be and the process, of that and such. We also had an episode with Alice where Alice was telling us her point of view and some of the roadblocks and some of the things that she would she wished you could do better or let go of more. Right. So
I've done better, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll see. Alice, has he? Okay, yeah. It's I gotta
Good
listen.
answer.
I gotta listen back to that tone. Definitely. But my point is, we've covered this, and we've covered like the day to day. What does the daily sync look like? So those will be in the show notes. Definitely go and listen to those if you haven't yet. Right now, like, unless there's anything else you can think of, I think,
let's help you.
Let's jump into the nitty gritty.
Come on.
And for everybody else out there that's just, they know they want to, they don't feel like they deserve it. That is my position now. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I don't even, like, if I could afford it right now to do it, and maybe I could, I don't know. Maybe this would help me to do that. But beyond that, let's, I'm a founder. I don't know if this is, if I'm ready for this.
All right. Well, the first thing, and I'd even address the cost.
Okay.
What I always share with people, and again, if it's not in your budget or if it's not right time, absolutely. My perspective is, whatever the cost is, your goal should not just to be to recoup that cost. You should 3, 5, 10x the value from that cost, because it is truly an investment, right? So what are you actually missing? What opportunities are you not able to take advantage of because you're missing this key person on your team? Like, what if you got to spend more time doing the things you love doing the things that give you energy, doing the things that, you get excellent results in, versus being stuck in the weeds? And so I usually start with, well, if you had, like Bo said, 10 to 12 hours more a week, what would you do with that? Because if you don't have clarity on that, then it's going to possibly not be a great fit. So I'm always want to make sure that the entrepreneur is clear on, like, well, what would they do with that additional time? So I would ask you, what would you do with an additional 10 to 12 hours a week?
Sure. Well, it's me, and there are 2 other partners, and each one of us have our strengths, right? And I'm the one that's more running the creative and the content. We've got another. So the answer would probably be a little different for each of us. But one of our partners is right now working on the product, and we just sold our first product, and our merch thing is. Yeah, thank you very much. And the merch shop is going live next week. But for me personally, I'm creating content. What I would be able to do is spend more time in the production of this content. Like it's a sport called Tisbee, all disc, no balls. And it's basically Frisbee on a tennis court. There's an extra net, not to go deep into that, but we have games. Another of the partners, both of us are comedians and improv comedians, and we all come from a production filmmaking background. So we have this unique angle of being able to create content in order to build this business. And that is my role, is to get this content out there. So I'd be able to really test more of what is working, what is not, where we should focus more on building that audience.
Yeah, and I think great entrepreneurs are builders, they're creators. And so the more time we get to spend building and creating, the more I think we see our business grow. I think we're happier, right?
Yeah.
Well, you talked about that, like getting the suck out of your life, right? And so the other thing we would do is go through an activity and inventory and see like, how is your time actually being allocated? Sometimes, especially when we're growing and scaling businesses, we're wearing so many hats. Like, where are we actually spending our time? Are we spending 80% of our time on stuff that's really high yield, or is it like 20%? And the other 80% is the stuff that sucks. And so that to me is just low hanging fruit. Again, using data, not just like, hey, of course this person's going to like change your life, but like using data to look and see you're actually, you're spending 80% of your time in administrative tasks. What would it look like if you were to flip that ratio to 80-20, right? Or even less, or taking all that off so you could spend 95% of your time in your, in the area that you love doing things and you get great results. And so we've got to start there. I think some people you mentioned is like, I don't know if I feel like I deserve an EA. I don't know if I feel comfortable I went through this. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable having someone send emails on behalf of me. Yep. Right? Or the fear of, I don't know if I want someone to send an email as me, and then I don't know what's going out. It's a control thing. But a lot of the, so we have 5 delegation roadblocks, and I'll just talk through them briefly. One is I didn't know I could delegate. Okay. It's like, and I'll give you examples of each. It's an interesting thing. I actually got this from a SuperPowers client. Rob Wells, he's in Washington, D.C. He's an IP attorney. And he was sharing with me, he had this vision to have these family dinners where they would actually cook together. And he wanted to just really bond with his family. But he didn't want the friction of planning it. He didn't want the friction of going to get the groceries and figuring out what was going to be on the menu. So he contacts his EA, Joe, and he said, Joey, I want you to call my wife. I want you to talk to all my kids. I want them to figure out what they want on the menu because I want a house divided. Then I want you to prepare the recipe sheets and we'll print them out. And then you're going to take the ingredients, you're going to order everything online and have the groceries delivered to our house. And I'm just going to show up and we're going to get to participate in family dinners together without all the friction. And I just thought, like, you wouldn't think to delegate something like that, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Steven may have mentioned it before, but he doesn't want to be on social media because he doesn't want to get distracted. He doesn't want to get into the negativity, the comments, or just get into a pattern of doom scrolling and be super distracted.
Yeah.
And so, but he also realized he didn't want to miss out on people's updates. And so there was someone that invited him to a wedding, and there's no way he would have missed that wedding, but it was a Facebook invitation. So he wasn't on social media, then he didn't show up at the wedding. So he outsources all of his social media to his EA. She scrubs all of his accounts, and he's got, his top 20 or 30 people that he wants to follow. And so he can see what's going on with Bo. He can see what's going on with me. He can say, hey, I saw you at such and such. But she gives him a summary every week. And then he can drip dose and curate content. So he's still getting the value of social media, still getting to participate in it, but he doesn't have to absorb all the negativity that he's trying to avoid. And so it's not always a binary outcome. And again, that was a super creative solution that Steven came up with. But there's lots of opportunities. There's things we don't think we could delegate, maybe because we're also wired to think this is something that I'm supposed to do. The second one is nobody can do this to me. Now, what we say is if it's in your superpower, absolutely do it, do more of it. But if it's not, right? If it's maybe something that you're just accustomed to doing, and maybe there's an opportunity for someone to do that, that's a way that maybe you just need to have a conversation and we can work through with your EA and let's deconstruct what's involved in this and how can they progressively take on more of those stakes. The third one we talked about, it takes too much time. We've already mentioned that. The last two, I think, tend to live more in our identity. One is, and this is a funny one, is I actually enjoy doing it and I don't want to give it up. What I find for myself is that is a procrastination tactic for me. So it's like, I'm pretty good at this, or, I can get this done. I like doing it. I get good results. But in reality, what I'm doing is I'm chasing something that's a quick win for the day. Gives me that dopamine hit. I can check it off my list. I can say I did something productive today. But what I'm actually doing is I'm avoiding the thing that I really need to be doing, or avoiding the thing that I don't want to do. And that's something that has shown up for me as a procrastination tactic. And so
that hits home for me. Big time.
Again, just an identity thing. And then the last one is like, I don't believe I deserve the support. And so for me, growing up the way I did, kind of latchkey kid, rugged individualist, I probably take a lot of pride in like my ability to work hard and figure things out. I don't ever want to feel like I'm big timing anyone. We have a food service business. I always say, yes, I'm the CEO, but I'll go clean a restroom. I'll sweep a mop. Like, I don't ever want to be above any of the work that anyone does in the company. And I can say part of my identity is I kind of wear that as a badge of honor. But just because I can, it doesn't mean that I should, right? And so I think a lot of times we wrestle with it, even when we get an EA. Sometimes that still shows up. It's like, I don't believe I deserve the support in this aspect of my life. I'm not going to give that to my EA, right? Sometimes it's personal, or sometimes it's just something that I feel like, I don't want you to have to deal with that. That's my thing, right? And so once we kind of go through these, there's the first three and the last two in our identity. Once we kind of demystify some of this stuff, how do we really think about delegation? But how do we think about letting go and leaning into this relationship to really achieve those new levels of freedom and growth?
Before we keep rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
How long have you had an EA?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. What you're describing, especially not really the title of the fifth delegation roadblock, like the I don't deserve it. I didn't necessarily feel like I didn't deserve it, but when you started describing it, I really remember struggling with the idea of I didn't want to be perceived as thinking I'm better than anybody. And so, like, did you have that moment when you started to use your EA well, where you're like, okay, she handles my calendar now, and this person is asking me for a meeting or a pick brain session or whatever, and what I should do is kick them to Alice. But I'm gonna seem like a big shot, and I don't want to seem like I really struggled with that at the beginning until I found the words, which have ended up being some version of, hey, look, Alice on my team handles my calendar, and she's going to jump in here and find the best time for you. And as soon as I just found those words, like I'm going to introduce somebody on my team to make things easier for the other person I'm talking to.
Yeah.
That's when I sort of got more comfortable with the idea that, yeah, I'm a big shot. I got an EA. I never wanted to come off that way, But as soon as I did that and kind of found the words to communicate it in a way I was somewhat comfortable with, I'll never go back, man. It's like, do you know, especially if there's more than one person you're trying to coordinate with?
Yeah.
And I'm on all these committees at this Commercial Real Estate Institute, and they'll send these doodle polls, which the act of doodle poll is helpful for sure, as opposed to a big old email chain. But like, I just send it to Alice. Hey, do this poll for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have to think about what I'm doing before and after this block of time or whatever. She just handles it, and it's great.
Terry, let me tell you this. When I say this, Alice and Bo are both probably just gonna go. Okay, because I know this at the bottom here are my text notifications. It's going to be right here. Let's see.
Wow.
Hold on. Let me,
Yeah,
I see it.
Yeah. And I
is that
and above
798?
759, and then above it is my Gmail 5024. So that gives you a little peek into
I feel much better about myself right now.
okay, good. I hope that makes everybody feel a little better. So like that has gotten out of hand, and Bo has so many times, and he's even said like, hey, I'm starting to feel like your assistant, because people are going through me to get to you. A lot of people want me, and
You are in demand.
I am
Talent.
It's clear.
Talent shines, baby.
That's right. There's a lot of things, and I've talked about this with my wife. It's like there's a lot of things I think I could be doing more and better, and a lot of things a lot of relationships that could be where the bridge could still be there, because I say no, but to keep the relationship rather than just being scared to go in there and then before you know it, it gets lost. It gets lost, and maybe that person will never reach out or call me again. And I think y'all understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I mean, I'm laughing because Ann Adleon's my assistant. She's incredible, and even when we were going through kind of vetting alignment, like wanted my wife to get to meet her, and she gave me the great green go signal. It's gotten to the point where my wife knows that Ann manages me and my calendar and my email better than my wife can manage me. So when she needs me to do something, she doesn't ask me anymore. She tells Ann to put on my calendar or tell me to do something because she knows it'll get done. So some funny stories is like, hey, we've got that tax thing. Can you call the CPA? And I'm kind of walking by, yeah, I'll get that done. And next day rolls around, hey, did you call the CPA? I was like, I got busy. I'll do it today. And by the third day, she asked me, hey, did you do it? I said, I'll promise I'll do it today. And then it showed up on my calendar. I was like, what is this? It says called CPA. And he says, oh, by the way, Jennifer messaged me. She told you need to call your CPA today, and I blocked the time for you, and it got done.
Terry, I need you to stop talking right now. My wife listens to every episode, man. Like, this is actually, I love the idea of this because you just described 100 conversations I'll have with my wife in a year. She'll ask me to do something. I fully intend to do it.
Yeah.
And then I get bounced onto the next idea.
Yeah.
And it's the next day, and she's asking me if I do it, if I've done it. I'm like, no, but I still fully intend to do it. And she just, what I should do is help my wife close the loops in her head, which really helps her de-stress. The more loops that are open, it just heightens it. And so I should pay more attention to that. But Alice, just be expecting. That would work better for us.
Yeah.
It would help.
It works great for us. She needs something. She's looking at the calendar, she'll just tell Ann, and it shows up. So I actually get more done. Things that my wife needs me to do. It's scheduled. There's less friction with us because she's not. I don't feel like she's telling me to do something. I'm failing to do it, so I don't get in the gap about that. And then Ann is just this conduit, and so she can just like coordinate everything for me. So I don't actually get overwhelmed by it because it's planned out, it's mapped out on the schedule.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't even have to think about it. It just shows up on my calendar, and we have our things. It's like, hey, you got this thing today. Hey, don't forget, you got to leave. You got to go pick up a kid.
That's the best part of what you're talking about. And so let me just say explicitly.
Yeah, you don't want to leave your kids.
Autumn, I like this idea, baby. Like, feel free to do it this way. It would actually help me, and I think it would help you. And so, yeah. Thanks, Terry.
I learned that actually from that client, Rob Wells. His EA has become his single point of contact throughout the day. So if his wife needs to get a hold of him, she contacts Joey. if his kids need to get a hold of him, she contacts. I mean, that's one example. I'm not suggesting that works for everyone, but it's to the point where if he's in a meeting with a client and it runs long, Joey's texting him and saying, hey, I've mapped it out. You're 15 minutes from your next appointment and it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You need to go now. Right.
Yeah.
And so that to me, like, I love what you said, just like it removes the suck. You can just kind of show up and be who you are. And someone's just kind of guiding you throughout the day. And I just love that about that relationship.
Yeah. Like thinking about that, like going back to that initial question of what would I do with the time, I would actually do the things that, not to get specific, but I would do, it goes beyond, like my mind immediately went to Tisby and how it could help Leland, right? But for me personally, that's one thing that I do, but I've got to show up and talk to Liz with CCIM to go to prepare for the
Philadelphia,
Fall Forum, right? I'm on the event board with the Patino Shelter, and they're trying to get an event up, and I got promo materials I've got to send to them. He texted me today, because it's been 2 days, and I told him I'd send it to him, and other things got in the way, right? So I can so see that how, like, just have any time that I have time blocked, or whenever I do time block, things get done. The effort it takes for me to time block and to consistently do it, with things that come up all the time, that's probably my biggest bottleneck.
Yeah.
Right. What are you looking for with that question of what would you do with the time you get back? Are you looking to pull out specific things from the founder or
I think it's giving the founder clarity, right? And it's not about coverage, it's about clarity.
Yeah.
Right? Initially, like if we just want to do task management and just dump stuff on people, we can have someone do that. But like you getting clarity on what it is that how would you leverage that time? Where should you be spending your time to get the most benefit for your business or in your personal life, wherever it is? And so quantifying that so you have clarity going into the relationship, because otherwise where I see people kind of struggle is it starts out with task management and that starts to grow, it starts to get better. But sometimes they get further down and they don't get to that next level of where they're letting go. They're actually, the EAs are becoming more autonomous and they're taking ownership of things. And so if you're in this relationship where it's just someone you're giving stuff to, I think that's good, but that's not really the evolution of what we're trying to look for. So one, quantifying, like, how would you use the time? So, because what I found actually in some people, they get the time and they don't know what to do with it. What do I do now? So they go chase the thing, they go chase distraction, or they go back and do the thing that they're good at and they don't want to let go, even though they should let go of it, right?
Right.
So starting at that place, I think, is really important. And then that gives you clarity on like where you're going to spend your time. And then again, the structure of how we build these relationships is using the cadence of a sync, using that relationship of that EA, kind of pulling those things out of you, as Bo was sharing. That's where we start to really like get to that place where you have much more autonomy and you're working more in sync more quickly.
Gotcha. So let's say we met, you asked me that question. I said, you know what, let me get back to you in a couple of days. Right. And I figure out what I'm going to use my extra time for. And I get clarity of like, well, if this is, if I had this time to focus on whatever, and I've got this clarity, then what happens then?
Well, part of our process is we would have you come and take a survey. We're using predictive index.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I would do is like, we would say, hey, this is you. This is how you're uniquely wired. What I see often, the patterns we see in most of our entrepreneurs, driven, or I'd say independent, dominance, right? Varying levels of sociability. What I mean sociability is social energy. So extroverts get their energy being with people, introverts get their energy by being alone. And so it's not about how social you are, it's just where you get your batteries. Sure. Right? So we see that. And then what's the pace in their patience level? So a lot of entrepreneurs are actually super impatient. And that also means they drive results. They want to move fast, right? And then what's their flexibility, or also a detail orientation. So those are kind of the 4 things we look for. And then what we want to do is get an understanding of who you are. We use that to actually match. Again, entrepreneurs always want to say, if I could just clone myself, I don't need another one of me because I'm a train wreck, right? So I need someone to complement me. My weaknesses are their strengths, right? And vice versa. And so once we kind of find that match, then we know how to really, I call it relationship architecture. How do we kind of build that relationship in a way and figure out these are the low-hanging fruit to unlock some freedom, unlock some growth for you early on and build upon that. But that's like a good starting point. So we're not just doing this blindly. We're actually using data to match up these pairings. And so what I do in my sessions often is I bring those back, right? So I don't know the last time, Bo, you looked at your predictive index. It could have been 3 years ago when you did a discovery.
Probably was. Yeah.
So what I do is I sit down and I say, here's Bo. This is how he's wired. This is what he's going to be really strong at. This is where he may have some challenges. This is how he communicates. This is how he makes decisions. This is how he gets his energy. This is what robs him his energy, right? And then I'll say, hey, Bo, here's Alice. This is how she's uniquely wired differently than you, right? So we often see a lot of the ones we see low detail, which also means flexibility. Like I want to do what I want when I want. I don't want to have a lot of rules. I want a lot of freedom. And then you have an EA who's really detailed, really structured, who can build processes and systems and operate within that structure, which is great. Where there's friction is when the entrepreneur is like giving half-baked ideas, not sharing context. And then the EA is sitting here wanting lots of information, lots of detail. And so my job is to kind of work through and break some of that stuff apart and help them figure out, again, how can they communicate together more effectively. And as they start doing that daily, it's like daily habits. As they start doing that together daily, tasks are getting managed better, emails getting managed better, calendars getting managed better. Then they start getting to spend more of that time into the things that you love doing and you're great at.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess just to say it so simply, being asked a question where I can really sit down and clarify what it is I do at that time. I take a survey. Then you all are able to take the results of that survey to learn more about how my brain is wired, find a match of your pool of EAs, I assume, connect together, and then from there, facilitating the communication between the two and exactly how, what is it, the 90 days crawl, walk, run kind of thing, right? Does every, well, go ahead.
Yes, it's know, you understand, you anticipate is what we call it, right? It's crawl, walk, run, but it's first 30 days, they're going to get to know you. They're going to know your world. They're going to know your industry. Do they have any, industry intel? Know your rhythms, know your family, right? And so start to kind of get to know you as an entrepreneur and as a human.
And this is a lot of this through the daily syncs.
Absolutely.
Okay. So everybody does a daily sync at first or always?
Yeah. I don't know what everybody or always does, but we've always done that.
Yeah.
We have our daily syncs, unless I just happen to cancel it, which has happened before. But, normal for us is 9 o'clock in the morning, except on Mondays it's 9:30. And those first 30 days, I remember every day she'd have a question for me about me. She's going to take me through my schedule, and we were getting used to that rhythm, and I was getting used to looking at Notion and some of these applications that just facilitate the relationship and the work. But she would have a question for me, and I don't remember what they were, but they were like icebreaker questions. But it was, stuff about my family or what I like to eat or what's my favorite place to vacation, or I don't remember what they were, but I remember them thinking, oh, this is kind of smart. Slowly over time, or not really that slowly, but every time we met,
a little bit every day,
there was a little bit of proactivity in learning more about me. And I think I remember, we were 2 to 3 weeks in, and I was like, oh, I get what you're doing here. Is this what you're doing? And she was like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not like it's sneaky or anything, but she's trying to learn me. And then at some point, it just went away. There were no more questions. And that was probably
She
about
knew
90
ya.
days or whatever.
She
And
figured you out.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like yeah.
she reports back to the mothership. I got him.
Okay, so know you, got those daily syncs, got some questions. What was the next thing?
Understand you. And then the third one is anticipate you. Right. And so once they're starting to kind of know you, understand know the rhythms, in the second week or the second month is when we want to start seeing like they're actually starting to own more things. They have good commit. They're starting to really like have good command of your email. Maybe they're drafting emails for you, right? They've got good command of your calendar. Maybe even they're booking flights and stuff for you, right? But that's a process. It's like everyone flies. Like, do you check a bag? I never check a bag. I like to sit in this seat. Like sharing kind of that context, but getting to that place where they can progressively hand off more and own more. And then by the third month, what we should see is signs of anticipation, looking around corners, as we say in the book, right? Like, how do they actually, they're not just waiting for tasks to execute on, they're thinking ahead. They're trying to, because they're starting to understand you, they're thinking, how would Bo handle this? And so some of the things that I talk about is like, we want the EAs to be a protector and gatekeeper. I also tell them to be a solutions provider, not a problem identifier. And so that's a great way to anticipate, which is, hey, Bo, I see this issue, or Bo, I see this opportunity. Instead of just handing that to Bo so Bo can solve it or Bo can figure out what to do with the opportunity, I encourage the EA to say, well, think about how Bo would solve it. Tee up 1, 2, 3 options. So they know that you've thought about how to solve this thing. And then again, Bo can be an editor. Alice, that's great. Option A, let's go with that. Thank you. Like just, it starts to smooth things out. And then the more that habit starts to happen, they're thinking ahead. They're not just taking email and filing it. They're reading through it. They're trying to understand like, what's the context here? What's going on? And so by the third month, we want to see signs, they're starting to have signs of anticipation. They should start, looking around corners for you. And so that's kind of the framework. And so my role is I actually come in early to one, get the partnership set kind of in the right path. And then I'll check in frequently and see if like everything's progressing, giving them just a few tools they can leverage, like the plastic balls and the glass balls, something that I introduced. You love that analogy.
I love it. I love it.
Another one that I do is, I love what Bo said, is like he's regular syncing, having regular communication. And again, I don't think it needs to be 30 minutes or an hour. It can be 10 or 15 minutes, but I provide a structure that I use. Again, it's not prescriptive. This is how I think an effective sync is. So for me, what I want from Ann, I said, I want the daily brief to come out in an email before we meet. And I want that one email to be my roadmap for the day. I want to see everything on my calendar. If there's a map I need to click on, I'm going to click on that link and it's going to take me there. If there's a background brief on this client, I want to click on that and it's in the email. Everything I need is in that email. I don't want to go searching down multiple platforms. So that's my roadmap. I review it. Then she leads that call. And so we do quick, in the beginning, we're doing a lot of icebreakers, get to know each other. Now it's like, it's a quick energy check. Hey, did you sleep okay? You feeling okay? Do we need to reorient your calendar because you're not feeling up to it today or you're not feeling well? And I asked her the same thing, right? Like a few weeks ago, my Ann went on vacation, typhoon, flight canceled, took a 4-hour boat ride on rough seas and then another 4-hour flight to get home. She got in at 10 p.m. right when her shift started. She says, I'll be there. I said, no, you need to go home and rest because you're not going to do either of us any good, right? So that's an energy check. And then once the energy check comes in, she says, these are your 3 top priorities for today. And again, she's leading me. And I get a vote. I can say I agree or disagree. But what she's doing is I'm always making sure that those top 3 outcomes, because I want to know what done looks like at the end of the day. If you're an entrepreneur, you could work every day, all day, at all hours. Right?
Yep.
I want to know what done is. And she knows what my goals are. And so for me, the rule is those top 3 outcomes need to relate back to my goals. At least one of them. I should be chipping away at my goals every month. or I'm sorry, every day. Because if I'm not, then I'm prioritizing activity over productivity. And so my top 3 outcomes, and then she's also providing clarity. These are my top 3 outcomes for the day. And we get clarity there. And again, our syncs are about 15 minutes. And then after that, she's going to say, hey, I'm stuck here. I'm blocked here. I need a decision from you. We clear that out. And then once a week, and I like to do it on Friday, we do a longer 30-minute to 45-minute planning session. So we look back. We kind of, what's our scorecard for the week? The things we committed to, do we get them done or do we not get them done? And then where do we struggle? What can we learn? I mean, not to struggle in task management, but struggle in our partnership. Where do we have friction? Right? It's a relationship. It's like a marriage in many ways. We gotta nurture that relationship. And then we look ahead at the next week and next couple of weeks. Do I have any travel coming up? What's the calendar looking like? Hey, let's make sure we're prepared for this. So then I can end my week with a clear mind, knowing I'm prepped. So because I want to go into my weekend, I want that to be for my family. And so that's kind of the key thing, is that I think the syncs are really critical. And then when we create shared language around, again, de-escalating some task versus, the plastic versus glass balls. And then once a month, we do a stop, start, continue. That's a relationship alignment tool. So I fill one out for Ann and she fills one out for me. And for me, it eliminates blind spots. Like I call them, I don't want to have a silent contract. That's where I have an expectation of someone that hasn't been spoken and they don't meet it, and then I get frustrated with them. I'm obviously very guilty of doing that. Probably shows up in my marriage more than I care to admit. But we did this stop, start, continue early on, and we do it every 30 days. And in the first 30 days, she said, Terry, I'd really like for you to stop checking email so often throughout the day. And I just thought, like, what are you talking about? And she says, well, I'm looking and you're actually not responding to too many emails. You're just deleting junk. And I think that's a big waste of your time. And the second thing is, you're not looking, you're responding to an email that I'd already responded to 3 minutes before. Now it looks silly. And so and then she said, but the root of it is, I feel like you don't trust me. And I want you to trust me. I got this. And that was like, that's all I needed to hear. And so after that, I let go of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of this constant refining every month. We do that, which has been really helpful. And it's funny what comes out of that every 30 days. I mean, Bo, you and Alice doing that after 3 years. Who knows what will come out of it? It's a really interesting thing to do.
That would be interesting. I don't think we've ever done that. And Alice, I'm interested in what that would be. So we should probably put that on the agenda. I've got a question about email for you. If I can interject here. Here's how Alice has helped me with email. She clears out all the junk. Okay. So that declutters my inbox, and by extension, declutters my mind. During our syncs in the morning, she will bring ones to my attention that look like they're important and need my attention. So she'll sort of direct me. But we've stopped before we got to the point where she's actually responding for me for anything. Now, that's different from me, like bringing her in to an email chain, and so she can jump in and schedule that. She'll do that, no problem. But she hasn't ever like taken an email that's come from me and responded to it as her. Now, in just scheduling and emailing with Steven a little bit, he's got his EA is his email gatekeeper. And so I send him an email, I get a response back from her, and she says, hey, I'm going to bring this to Steven's attention. All right. And she'll give me a little bit of context. Right. But she's gatekeeping his email. And this actually gets me to a bigger question on the tail end of this that I'm curious about. I see that as a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That my email, like, I hate email. And it's a suck on me every day. And it's so much better than it used to be, but it still sucks.
Yeah.
And it's still,
It's heavy.
big old brain fart.
Yep.
Right. It's been a while since we
my brain fart.
Brain fart into an episode. But it's been a while. No, I'm sorry. Not that. My email inbox is 90% better than it used to be, but that 10% still just kind of drives me nuts. And I'm wondering, like, does your EA respond for you? Like, what are the benefits and maybe potential pitfalls of that? And then the bigger question, though, is, like, I've been in sales most of my career, not so much anymore, and so access to me was a given. Like, you call, I will pick up the phone, you know? And I've improved a lot since then. Like, you know, kind of trained most clients that I'm not necessarily available on the nights and weekends. And, you know, I travel some and you know, you're not going to get me 100% of the time. But there's another level of this where, you know, guys like Steven, guys like this other client of Superpowers you've mentioned a couple of times, I forget his name.
Rob Powell.
Rob Wells.
Rob Wells. Oh, close.
Got some serious gatekeeping on access to him, and I almost feel like it's unrighteous to limit access. Like, that is I'm pretty sure it's a fallacy.
Yeah, you got to protect your time.
Yeah, but
You know, like, you got to protect. You can't just give access to everybody.
no, you can't give it to everybody. But
Just let it pile up.
what kind of a jerk?
Look at Timmy's phone. Just let him pile up.
Just be me. But like, that is a mental struggle for me to kind of take that next step in protecting my time so much that a lot of people that have access to me now wouldn't have access to me. Like, I'm back in that space of where I don't want, like, is somebody going to think I'm just kind of a jerk because Alice is going to schedule our meeting and not me?
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a place that, like, I see Steven, I hear about other people who do things like this, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to get there.
Well, this is a great way to segue into, okay, you're 3 years in. How do we improve the good working relationship already, and specifically with this email? You know, like.
Well, let me ask you a question, Bo. Does knowing that Steven has Bea responding in that way, does that make you think any less of Steven?
No.
Do you think Steven is unrighteous by doing so? Right?
No.
Well, you have his phone number,
and
right?
I've had that conversation with myself, specifically with his name in the conversation.
Yeah,
Steven does it. Dude's awesome. I don't feel less about him. I have to wait for a response from him sometimes longer than most people. And you know what? Nothing breaks. I don't like him less. I don't think less of him. But I haven't. I can hear. I got another coach. I can hear what he'd tell me right now.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
it's kind of like that fifth roadblock. And again, maybe not that you don't believe it's poor, but it's something in your head that the way you're thinking about it. And so, you know, Amber has this, she shared this with me. I thought it was really great. Amber says, you know, entrepreneurs in her mind are either strategic, relational, or operational. And I would say that, again, you can be a combination of either two or three of those, but a big part of what you do, though, is relational, right? I would say I'm also a relational entrepreneur. And so being a relational entrepreneur, and you being in commercial real estate, which I have a little bit of understanding, like having done leases and things for my own business, it's like you take a lot of pride in what's made you great is how responsive you are, how accessible you are. And so for you, feeling like you're starting to filter that, feels like you're actually cutting out a part of what's made you great. What I have learned, again, Steven is my model too, because when it came to scheduling, he was like, I said, hey, can you go have lunch? He's like, can you just contact my EA? And I was like, initially, like, what? And I realized, actually, if I actually wanted to get done right, it's better to have his EA do it, because he's terrible. I mean, calendar management gymnastics is definitely not his unique ability in any regard, right? And so, and I think he still has a tension around it. I had a buddy who wanted to go meet him for lunch. Like, I introduced him, and I saw him one Friday. He's like, I'm having lunch with Steven. I go, when? He's like, in 2 months. Like, is he that busy? And I said, No, I mean, he's busy, but he is very clear and protective and has boundaries around where he spends his time, because that makes him a great husband, a great father, a great leader, a great coach, right? A great friend. Because when he's with you, he is like 100% with you.
Yep.
Right. And so he knows that it's still, after all these years, he knows there's a little bit of tension around that. But for me, knowing that I'm a relational entrepreneur, it's like, it doesn't have to be a 1 or a 0. It doesn't mean that I have to be always super responsive, or that I'm completely surrendering and then letting Ant take all of it. So I kind of stair-stepped it. It was respond on behalf of me. Somewhere in case you mess something up or you don't know the context of the relationship. And then slowly, as she's learned, she starts responding. She can respond as me. But I think one of the biggest low-hanging fruit for a relational entrepreneur is email. And if you think about how distracting it can be to be checking it, every 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, it just sucks. Like it's still a big, you've gotten much better progress in that, but it's still a big part of your life. And so I don't know, I'd love the idea of just testing it out and trying it out and seeing. And if it doesn't work, that's what I always say. It's like there's no failure, just learning. You can say, hey, maybe this is not working for me. So let's go back to the way we used to do it. Versus like, I don't know how I feel about that. You won't know until you try it, right?
That's right. And Timmy, have you ever heard of email bankruptcy?
No, but I'm interested.
Yeah. It's where you go in and you just flat delete everything. Which is exactly the same way you're ignoring everything. There's not much difference.
Right.
Flat.
I see.
Clear the deck and you declare email bankruptcy and you start fresh.
Right.
And nothing breaks when you do that. I mean, not any different than ignoring it all.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah,
I've done that before.
Yeah.
It was liberating.
It is liberating. When I wanted to get to inbox 0, that's what I did. I just selected everything, I archived it all, and it was gone. And then a little panic attack initially, but it is freedom.
And I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I went on vacation one time, and I think this was after I'd been in coach, and I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these free days actually free days. We've talked a little bit about free focus. Okay. So free days, no email, no work. You are doing what you intend to do, and it's not work related or anything. So I'm on vacation with my family. I tell my wife, this is years ago. It's like, I'm literally going to unplug from all this stuff. We're going to go on vacation. And so I think I pretty much did it. But in my email response, my out of office response, I tried to be a little snarky with it. It said something along the lines of, hey, look, I'm on vacation. And I'm actually going on vacation. Your email is not more important than my relationship with my family. I'm going to prioritize this during this time. And so what I'm not looking forward to is the inbox I'm going to have when I come back. So I'm going to delete it all. And if you need my attention, please make a note to resend your email on such and such a date.
Oh, yeah.
And I came back and actually deleted it all, and it worked. Nothing broke.
That's brilliant.
And I was like, this is the way to go on vacation.
Oh my goodness. That's brilliant.
Oh my God. Wow.
And I'm pretty sure I got that idea from probably somebody in Strategic Coach or somewhere else.
Oh, that's so good.
I'm not brilliant enough to come up with that, but I was like, oh, I'm trying that.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I have had the thought of creating an away message or just an automatic message just to let people know,
Don't expect.
I like it to the point where it's like, I check my email on this day, right? So everything that's sent right now, like just thinking of that, everything that's been sent is going to be deleted. Send your email or whatever before, like did the day before this or whatever, right? Just I check my email here. Anyway,
because I know we've devolved into talking too much about email at this point, but the whole premise of email is giving unfettered access for the convenience factor.
Sure.
I mean, we have opened up our lives. Anybody can interrupt us at any time, and
Yeah.
And that has become normal. And the people like Steven and the others who like really say, hey, I'm not going to play that game, you know? And here's how it works with me. And I know it's different, but it's because I care about the people I'm in front of in that moment.
Yeah.
And they're going to have the best version of me. And if that means you have to wait 2 months to have lunch with me, just know that, man, when we sit down together, like, you are my focus during that time, and you're going to get the very best of me in that moment.
That's true. That's huge.
I mean, that's the difference.
That's huge. That's so
100%.
huge. Yeah. Anybody listening right now, if you feel what I'm feeling, which is a bit of clarity and excitement at the thought of all this, hit like, subscribe, share this with somebody who needs to know it, please.
Which is everyone.
Which is,
Come on.
I think, just about everyone. Yeah, just wanted to plug that in. And it also, too, there's a link right in the show notes right now. It sounds like I'm doing an outro, but just in the middle of this, like, yeah, and maybe it's time to do that in a little bit. But there's a link, superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. Use that link if you want to set up a appointment or talk to anybody. superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. That lets them know that they heard it from here. And that's great data for everybody. So,
Hey, I've got a question, Terry.
Yeah.
So you've been in this role for about 6 months, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. What's the biggest transformation you've seen? Not like somebody's life has changed in 6 months. It generally takes longer than that. But like somebody who went from 0 to 60 because of this one thing in working with an EA. Like, do you have a great example of how that's something that's happened?
You know, I could actually probably speak to my own experience.
yeah.
Where I've seen a shift. So, going from, you know, I'm effectively in 2 businesses now, right? And so, what I found the biggest challenge initially was like the context switching. One of the things that me being in these 2 roles has forced me to do is really actually sharpen how I spend my time each day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run multiple businesses if you're in a lot of minutia, if you're context switching constantly, and the things that I'm doing aren't actually like high yield activities. And for me to get Ann on board, the freedom I've gotten, that my business is continuing to grow, that I'm able to spend the time. And the thing is, when we do these sessions, Ann's on these sessions with me. So we're doing these as partnerships. And really, there's no way I could do what I'm doing right now without Ann. It'd be impossible. I would be swimming in administrative stuff that just sucks the life out of me. And so that's, for me, that's been my experience. Again, it's only been 6 months, and I continue to see what continues to be next for me. But, you know, we've got a lot of clients that they've never done this before. And so I think we've got a client right now who's actually building an interesting company, effectively like a crypto hedge fund. And he had one, he only had his EA part-time, and now he's going full-time, and now he's rapidly trying to scale up this business. So I've seen it gone from kind of inception to now it's actually like the foundation is being laid, and there's no way he could do this without his EA. And because there's too many things. He's getting to focus on meeting with investors, meeting with banks, meeting with, you know, there's a real estate play involved in this where he's using real estate as like kind of a hedge on the Bitcoin stuff. So it's fascinating to see what a lot of these folks are doing.
Sounds pretty fascinating.
It does. It does.
Especially, he said real estate, my ears perked up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm going to give this to you for free, Terry.
Okay.
I think I figured out a great tagline for you. You could put it in your X bio or whatever. But I think what would work so good for you would be fat straws and glass balls. Isn't that great?
I think it is an attention grabber. It might need a little bit of context.
You might not be able to use it, but yeah. No.
Terry, I'm assuming you hadn't listened to a lot of Commercially Speaking. And so what you're experiencing is Timmy's goal of making me a little bit uncomfortable in every episode. He's pretty good at it.
It's all good. I love it.
It brings me such joy. The other thing I think here is like what getting an EA does, or what I would see it in my life, is just adding accountability, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs doing so much all the time on their own.
On an island often.
A lot of things can slip through the cracks because there's not that accountability. I'm meeting every day with someone who is 100% focused on getting to know me, understanding me, and anticipating what's going on. So, yeah, I wrote that down, so I had to say it.
I think it's funny you mentioned accountability, because I think entrepreneurs love having accountability for their teams, but they don't generally want it for themselves.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about a lot too is, if I encourage the EAs, if they see their entrepreneurs punting on tasks, that put it on their calendar, and if they punt on it, put it on there again. If they punt again, you can say, hey, I'll serve as a proxy for you. We'll hop on a Zoom call. We'll mute, and I'll be basically a study hall director, and you'll sit and work through the thing. And I'll be working on something else, but I'll just be here to be your accountability partner. And I've seen that. I've had to do that myself, and it works. It works really well.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, one of the things I think about, if you're in Coach, if you're using EOS, if you're in Vistage, or any of these programs, that we typically go, we spend that day, we get inspired, we get clarity, we know what we're going to try to achieve in the next quarter. But the real question becomes, what do you do the other 89 days? And I think that's where the partnership is really kind of the glue, the nudges of like, Bo, these are your goals. You said you want to do these. Like, what are the daily habits that you're going to do day in and day out to make sure you're getting towards that? It could be business, it could be personal, but the magic happens in the daily action, right? Because we can all, I use EOS in my business. I've been in coverage, like all those things. And I've been to Coach, left the flight late in the evening. The next time I revisit the materials is in the next session, because I was too busy. Like, I've done that before.
I've done the same thing.
Right.
Yep.
And it's like, gosh, like I'm not really getting value out of the investment. And my time's too compressed. And so I missed an opportunity to do something those other 89 days. And I think that's where a really great partnership with an EA can help create a lot more alignment of what are the daily actions you're taking. So that's why I want to focus on my top 3 outcomes every day. Not what are my tasks, what are my to-dos, but like, what are my top 3 outcomes? Because I always want to know what done looks like. And Ryan says this, I love this slide. He says, the greatest gift that we can give to our team, or even have for ourselves, is to come home at the end of the day and sit around the dinner table and know that you put in a really good day's work, without having someone pat you on the back. And the only way I can do that is I have absolute clarity on what those key outcomes were for me. Yeah. And I think having someone like Ed or Alice to fine tune like micro adjustments every single day, that's where I think the magic happens, right? And so that's something that we're talking a lot about internally. It's like, what are we doing those other 89 days?
Yeah.
Man, that's a great way to bring this to a close.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I have this incredible urge to go knock out my top 3 for the day.
Do you have your top 3 for the day, Bo?
Every day I've got a top 3. Come on. For sure. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. If you want to get your executive assistant and start that process right now, you can go to superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. Terry, thanks for being here. Is there anywhere else that people can follow you? Anything else you want to plug? When are we getting a fat straw here in Owensboro, Kentucky? What's going on?
Good question. Yeah. Do you need a great broker to spearhead your national expansion?
We should talk. Yeah, but you can find me. You just be on LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn profile would be a great way to get a hold of me. But
Terry Pham, Pham. Terry
Yes.
Pham. Terry, thank you so much. This has been
Yeah,
this
this
has
is
been
great.
incredible.
It was
Gents, it's been a
a pleasure
pleasure.
to meet you. Yeah.
Highlight of my day.
Nice.
Likewise.
Nice. If
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was the highlight of your day, listener, go ahead, hit like, subscribe, share this with somebody who could use it. We'd love to know your thoughts. What are some of the biggest roadblocks for you right now? If you don't have one, if you do have an EA, or even if you've gone through superpowers to get yours, but share it in the comments how it's changed your life so we can help other entrepreneurs focus, get accountability, and really 10x their time and eliminate the suck. You can subscribe to our newsletter at subscribe.wgbaron.com. You can follow us on social media at Commercially Speaking, on X at ComSpeakPod. We'll see you all next Tuesday. Is there anything I'm forgetting? No.
Love you, brother.
I love you too, brother.
All right.
Yeah. Bye,
Terry.
Alice.
Bye, Alice.
Bye, Alice.
Bye, Bridget.
Bye, Bridget.
Bye, Bridget.